Okay, I think we are live. I'm going to verify to make sure we're on our page. I'm going to click on the Instagram live as well. Yes, we're live. Okay, yeah. Okay, we're live on Instagram now too. So we got people are getting notified right now to come on and jump on. We got Facebook going. We got Coach Tomas here. People joining on. If you are Isaac Fulton, Kai Winterscheid, Arinda Fanning, we already got a bunch of people joining. Sandy, okay, and then let us in. Give us a wave or a thumbs up. Oh, we got Russ Kayon. That's the Leafs. Great guys. Okay, give us a thumbs up or a comment in the comments on Facebook or Instagram. Let us know that you can hear us. Stephen Macias, great. We got a bunch of guys joining us. Awesome. I'm going to do my best to look back and forth to the Instagram and Facebook. If I miss you, if I missed your shout out for you, I apologize. My head's turning back and forth. But we're gonna just get started here in 1 second. We got people joining us. I think on Facebook, I can't quite tell if I can see the comments. Want to make sure I can get your questions answered. Give us a comment in the Facebook chat as well if you can hear us. But I think we're good to go. Joyce, can you give me a comment on Facebook if you can hear me? Or a thumbs up or something? And we'll get started. Oh, Instagram can hear us. Great. How are things, Howard? We got Shannon or Joyce. Can you give me a thumbs up or a comment in Facebook so I know it? Oh yeah, there's the so I know you can hear us on Facebook. Yes. Okay. Great. Wow. So very excited to have Coach Tomas on this morning to talk about navigating junior hockey in particular. So some of you, a lot of you know, as Coach Tomas is our high performance director, he does coach the highest level teams in our club and organization, AAA levels. You probably know about his professional hockey playing background. What you may not know is his level of involvement in hockey pathways and advancement beyond youth hockey. Tomas has really made it his passion. He's shared his story of his own playing career and his path to the United States and playing and kind of creating a life for himself before. We can always share that video, but he's really made it his passion to help players in their pathways that go beyond their time at youth hockey, that goes beyond their times, whether it's with us at the Junior Reign or in California, or even international players, and helping them take the next steps in their career and their education. And what's really unique about hockey compared to someone who plays maybe basketball or football in high school, and then they play at their school and then they go on maybe to college, they get a scholarship or something. Hockey is very unique pathways, and it can be very confusing to a lot of people to figure out the next right steps for them. And junior hockey is often a part of that for players that are trying to continue their career beyond youth hockey or have goals of playing college hockey. Junior hockey is normally one of the steps in between. And there are, I think we figured out before, there's over 346, I think, different types of unique pathways that you could go with your hockey career beyond youth hockey. And a lot of people can get overwhelmed with what are the junior leagues I should go to, which ones are better than others, which ones are good for me, when should I go, when should I leave, what does it do to my college eligibility, what about my goals for hockey, what about my goals for education, and it can be really overwhelming. We're very fortunate club to have Tomas leading this way for us because he is directly involved in pretty much, he's in a unique position, he's directly involved in pretty much every avenue you can imagine. He goes out to all these events and networks with all the various coaches and leagues, and he is a scout in the USA for the USHL, which is the top junior league in the United States. He's a scout for in the NAHL, which is another very good league. He is an owner in the WSHL, which is another junior league in the United States, and very connected to understanding the other parts of it as well. So I'll talk a little bit more, but really a unique perspective because he's a coach at the AAA and AA levels in youth hockey. He deals with those families and parents, and then he's a scout at these junior levels as well. So he really understands that pathway well, and he's here to kind of share that knowledge with us today. So Tomas, thanks so much as a long introduction for joining us.
Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on the Facebook Live.
And we're on Instagram as well. And we have a bunch of people joining us here too on Instagram. Tomas, maybe just let us know what your role is beyond the Junior Reign Hockey Club as a scout or involved with some of these other junior teams and leagues.
Well, it's a complex role, and it was not given to me. It has been a process or creation in a way, the same way like hockey players are developing and going through the stages. I had to go through different stages and get to know the process, and things were folding together or coming together as I have been developing or being part of different organizations. I started with the Junior Kings. I was there for 10 years. And now I am 8 years with the Junior Reign. So I have and I developed a relationship with a lot of people and became not only a coach but also educator and evaluator, I would say. And it's a pleasure to do that. And I'm learning constantly, like everybody else, and trying to figure out next move, next step, and how to help players, how to make it for them more understandable and suitable for each of them, because everybody is a little bit different.
And Tomas, can you explain for people? So there's for junior hockey, which is oftentimes, like we said, the next step from youth hockey, before, whether it's before college hockey or before professional hockey potentially. Can you explain the difference, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 junior hockey?
Yes, and it goes even beyond that, because we have in North America we have 2 countries, Canada and United States. Basically, if I consider hockey, those are 2 different environments. And we have a top junior leagues in Canada and in the United States. And the Canadian top junior league, Canadian Hockey League itself, at 3 different regions, which are, you would say, tier 1, and it's called Major Junior League. And those players are treated almost like professionals, and they are being prepared for North American Hockey League or professional route. And if you join the top junior teams in Canada, overall called Canadian Hockey League, then you are not eligible to attend U.S. college. And that's the major factor. However, those players who join Canadian Hockey League are still having the opportunity later on to go to college, and there is a certain tuition set up for them if after they finish junior hockey they stop playing hockey. So that's the major difference between Canada and United States. So some players, they just want to go to Canadian Hockey League, go to major juniors if they are at that level, and it's a really good league. Mainly mainstream towards hockey, and even though education is not denied, and that league think about education of the players as well in case they will not continue. Most of the US born players are aiming towards US colleges, and mainly they want to attend NCAA Division 1 or Division 3. And getting back to junior league in the United States, the tier 1 the highest junior league in the United States is called USHL, or United States Hockey League, which is a league where top players have opportunity to be part of. It's not an easy league to get into. Uh, so I would say the second highest junior league in the United States is North American Hockey League, which is NAHL. Even though some uh, organizations or hockey people are also pointing out to NCDC, which is a league mainly set up back east, which is also considered as a tier two, or tries to be at the same level as NAHL. However, officially it wasn't named or labeled that way. And under NAHL, there is a vast amount of tier three junior level teams, and I can go to it later and be more specific, not confuse people. But the general knowledge is that there are major Canadian junior leagues, and there are top two junior leagues. It's just officially USHL and NHL. That's the main difference, and I can answer questions about that if somebody is
Yeah.
specific interested
Maybe you
in
can,
those.
Tomas, maybe you can explain what it means to be a tier one. What does it mean for tier one junior league versus a tier two and versus a tier three? Meaning, right, from my understanding, the tier one league, that everything is paid for, correct? For the players. And tier two and tier three, it changes based on the level.
Yes, later on I can get to BCH, which is a Canadian-based league, which is also considered as a tier two. The thing again about BCHL is that except one team, which is Wenatchee team, is all the players to be Canadians, except they have a quote. I think it might be 2 to 4 foreign players they can play for that league, which is not easy to get. Again, majority of American-born players want to go to NAHL or USHL. Yes, the difference is USHL is a tier one level, which draws most interest from NCAA Division One college. Almost the difference is the level. USHL is at a higher level as a league. At NAHL, there can be some good teams, but overall, players are part of this league if they couldn't make USHL the first year. However, they can get there maybe the second year, and that both leagues are scouted by NCAA Division One league, and of course NCAA Division as well. But the difference is that USHL, if the player goes to USHL, he doesn't have to pay anything, including the host families. Everything is covered for the player. And NAHL, most of the fees are covered for the player. There's a certain amount of fees the players still have to cover, for instance, the host family themselves, but it's not the payment for host families is not huge, and it's definitely affordable.
Yeah, and at the tier three level, there's usually some tuition or dues that the players will need to play in any of the tier three leagues, correct?
Tier three division is it's complicated, and it's regionally divided, and it all depends what the players expect from the tier three division. The key is, even though players are at the tier three division or the tier three leagues, they still want to their goal is to move up to higher leagues, or they still have opportunity to move to NCAA division, but mainly players from tier 3 junior leagues aim for NCAA division 3. That's mainly the goal, even though there are instances players can still make NCAA division 1, but it's really rare.
Yeah, unless they go
And
from.
yes, definitely players at the tier 3 level, they have to pay certain tuition, which is very similar to payment to youth hockey clubs at the U16, 18 AAA levels. However, I would think that at the tier 3, at the junior level, the tuition covers basically everything for players, including the traveling, including the hotel and food when they go on the road.
Right. Right. So we can already tell that for the families we have Canadian junior leagues, and there's several levels of Canadian junior leagues there. We've talked about the Canadian Hockey League. You talked about the BCHL. Didn't even really talk. There's the Alberta AJHL. There's the Ontario Provincial Tier 2 League, and then there's also Tier 3 in Canada now as well, right? And then you talked about in the United States, USHL being one league, NAHL Tier 2 League. The two of the top leagues where most of the NCAA players are recruited from. And then tier 3, there's several tier 3 leagues. You talked about a little bit of some of those. A lot of times players could move up from tier 3 to tier 2 or tier 2 to tier 1. Tomas, what's the oldest that a player can be in junior hockey for their last year in junior hockey?
It's at 12. You can, at the junior level, players are mostly between 18 and 20 years old. There are some, they are 17, some players they are 16, but it's rare. And the one thing what people maybe don't realize is, let's say USHL, right? They have a certain structure of the team, and for instance, only 3 to 4 players are allowed to be there at the 20 years old. Then majority of the players are 19 years old, and there are certain amount of players they are 18 years old, and maybe 2 or 3 they are 16, 17. So there's a structure, especially at those USHL and USHL teams, a little bit at the NAHL teams as well, but USHL teams, they don't want to be pleaded, so they have a structure of moving players on, and most of the 20 years olds they are moving to the colleges. Majority of the team consists of 19 years olds, I would.
Yeah. So yeah, and the majority of players now in hockey, again, there's difference in hockey that start playing college hockey. They're going now 20, 21 years of age to college hockey, and youth hockey, goes until 18 and under. So right, we have 18 AAA is the highest level of youth hockey. So you have that 2 year kind of gap right between youth hockey and collegiate hockey, and that's where I think a lot of players and families are trying to figure out that next step as far as junior hockey. Tomas, what are some of the things that families and players should consider as they're starting to think about their time beyond youth hockey, and if junior hockey would be good for them?
Number one factor is really individual, and it is a stage where the player is at. The family and the player has to really look at him or herself. What kind of a situation the player is at. Let's say maturity level, and level. Everybody has to understand that when the player moves on, the player usually has to take care of him or herself. At the youth hockey level, most of the players are staying with the families and are nurtured, and everything is kind of comfortable, even though players are exposed to hard training and they are exposed to a team environment. They know how it to win or lose. And how if the situation doesn't go well, they always have the support of the family. But if they are moving away from the family, now things are changing. Mostly players know how they feel when they are away from the family, how they are going to put up with a stressful situation when the things are not going well. Maybe they are not put in the right host family. Doesn't maybe they will not be with the friendliest teammates. They would have to put up with uh, various challenging situations. Uh, they used to be maybe top players on the team, and all of a sudden they are at the team where they have to fight every day for their spot. Sometimes not the performance may not be the main factor because every coach has a different view on the players and different structure. It all depends how the player fits in the structure. The player also didn't finish the high school, so he has to put up with educational challenges. And it's about the stage the player is at. Everybody has to ask him or herself a question: am I ready? Am I ready to move on away from my family? Am I ready to withstand all the challenges I face? Sometimes you don't know until you start really facing them. I can give you my own example. When I was 18 years old, I already played professional hockey when I was 16. I played 3 years for my hometown. And then at the time when I was in a communist system, I had to face a challenge. If I'm going to continue playing for my own club, if I um, if I can also study. And the third question was, that time I had to go to army. Uh, at that time, I had to do years of mandatory army training, and I couldn't avoid. The good thing for those guys who were hockey players was that we could serve our army time on a hockey team, still go away from home, be in an army town, and be part of army, but at the meantime we would be allowed to play hockey. And I knew at that time I faced that situation. I could sort of study and be at school, and when I finished the school I could only go to 1 year my army duty. But at that time I had a chance to go to a top army team when I would devote all my time to hockey. And I thought that I would use all my time to improve myself and hockey. And I thought kind of return back to my studying later on. So I had to make a decision about it, and I decided I will go to army. And I postponed my school. I went to army. However, I was not ready. I went and I went to army team full of veterans, and I had to struggle for my spot. I wasn't prospect anymore, and on top of it, I got injured. Nobody think about getting injured, right? Everybody always think in their dreams and their plans that everything will go smoothly. I will be fine, and I encountered exactly those things I was talking about. I had unfriendly mates. Um, collegiate. He wanted to play, tons of veterans. I was lost, totally lost, and I had to find my way back. And fortunately, the second year, the second army team picked me up, and I could play for second army team, and it was a totally different situation. Friendly teammates, more at my age, less veterans, and I was in totally I thrive on. I was able to go back to national team and then go back to civil duty in a totally different situation. So, however, 2 years kind of taught me life lessons, and I learned so much out of it. Uh, and the question is if we are ever ready mentally, unless we face those challenges. And however, when I'm looking back, and I think I was ready to face those challenges came, but I was ready mentally to deal with them, withdraw them, and move on. The question is if I would be 18, 17, 16 years old, if I would be able to face them, if I would be mentally strong enough to kind of figure it out. And I don't think I would. And that's basically the main thing. Everybody has to look at himself or herself. If at 15, 16, 17 years old, if they are mentally to move on, or to kind of stay as long as you can to the best stage of your mental and physical, I would say, uh, stage, and then move on when you feel that you are prepared and your time uh, to, to train and develop to a situation you want to move on and you are prepared and all the biological and mental uh, clock kind of reached the max and you can move on.
And we have a question that came in, Tomas, from Felina Davalos. She's asking, so at the junior level, so if a kid finishes high school and say they play youth hockey through U18, and then they go out to play junior hockey for 2 years, and their goal is to play college hockey. She's asking if they're not taking college classes, they're not in school, and during those 2 year period in between, what are most kids doing then?
Yeah, that's a good question. Number of things that many people may not know. Hockey is very specific, and I didn't mention that before. Uh, Kids and players are usually not in a junior team at the tier one or tier two until they really mature and are 18 years old. And I say colleges are not taking players on the team until they are 1 years. The junior teams at the tier one and tier two level like 18 and 19 years olds to move on, and colleges like the players they are 1 years old. There are some exceptions when they are 19 that they're usually draft picks to NHL and they are moving to just a little bit faster. But that thing where let's say football, basketball, soccer, all these players can move to every sort of a there is a gap between 18 years olds, and that's where players are joining junior levels, and that's the most for time. And yes, when you join junior, every coach, uh, every advisor, I think, would recommend that connected with your schooling. And most of the players are, if they are smart, they go to college and they take part-time classes. One thing it's important to realize that it's not recommended for junior players to join full time classes because their clock start ticking. It means at the NCAA you got a 5 year of college eligibility. That means you want to start a school, college or university as a freshman. That's the best start. And also, most spots are available at the NCAA Division colleges mainly. And even at the NCAA Division 3, all the coaches want their players to be freshmen so they can actually be at the program for full time, which is 5 years. However, it's important for these players, if they are at the junior level, to take part-time classes. Let's say they can take recommended amount is 2 classes. Uh, that they take during the year. So it's a part-time, and they can still be connected with the school. They still understand in school and sort of are busy as well mentally. So they don't lose the studying and don't lose the studying habits, and they keep interest that way. And for most of them, it's even a fun time because they can pick up the classes they want to study. They can educate themselves and get better. And I would say for all the junior level players, make sure at that time you use your free time to advantage. And nowadays, even at this time when we all want to get better and get smarter and learn something new, it's great to join classes which are fun and also give you a perspective about your life and give you what you to go.
Oh, we had a little bit of connection issues, but I think we're getting most of it. So that's actually great, Tomas. They can take the some part-time classes, and I imagine that makes it easier then when they do start playing college hockey, that now they have some of those maybe electives or prerequisites or things like that in place. Because when you start playing college hockey, there's obviously the academic demand as well as the athletic demands of practices every day and things like that, and games on the weekends. So, but to recap, they're part-time classes because being a part-time student, because once you're full-time, you said you start to lose that eligibility and could cost yourself the opportunity of playing college hockey or getting the scholarship or partial scholarship, or those things that we'll go into more in the future. When Tomas, if a player is a youth player, let's say they're playing 14 AA, AAA, 16 AA, AAA, 18, and they're thinking about junior hockey when they're done with their youth hockey career, when should they start looking at that? Some of the things that we talk about is that there's a lot of camps, there's a lot of invitations, there's a lot of different stuff all the time. When is it really actually important for players to start thinking about laying the pathway to junior hockey beyond their youth hockey, and what should they do to start kind of preparing for that step?
The number one is that players have to think about really getting themselves, at the best possible situation. I would think that the most important thing is to train as hard as they can, to get as good as they can get, and don't think ahead of themselves. There's a saying that if you are good, you will be seen, and you will not be lost in the crowd. It all depends on the determination of the player and the passion of the player. And if the player should get to tier one or tier two junior leagues, he will. He will. It's not easy, but the training and to be at the best possible performance level, that's the key. Because there is also another saying that you can be pre-exposed in a way that you are at a level, and you don't want to be when you are not ready. Mm-hmm. Again, players, they are ready at the soul, and there are players, they make a major steps at their 17 and 18 years old. And my experience really is that I had several players at the U18 AAA level, and they actually improved so much their last year at the U18 that I believe that year before they would not be ready. And now when they graduate from U18 level, they are ready to move on. They are ready to face challenges, and they are really prepared to come to AAA level, and they are really ready to be seen and be grabbed by top junior teams in United States.
It's interesting you talk about being pre-exposed, right? You're right. So you have a player maybe that goes to the camp or something early, and then the coaches or whoever gets the thing in their head that player's not good or that player's whatever, and that can almost hurt them more than going once they're really ready to make an impact. Hadn't thought about that before.
Yes, and also I think It is important to know that all the major AAA teams and even AA teams are going to different showcases during the year, and that's the key. Some tier one level players are going to tier one elite league. They travel to different showcases. Other teams are under NAPHL when they play showcases, and during that time, during the year, the players have opportunity to be seen and are being looked at, and they are creating their image. And sometimes it takes 2 to 3 years really to go through that process before the players themselves are ready, and also the scouts who are watching the teams are ready for the player. It goes both ways, actually.
Yeah. And I think your advice before that too is at the end of the day, it sounds, there's it's complex, meaning there's lots of different paths, and it's important to understand the different paths. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty simple. Like you mentioned, it's how good you are, right? So that you can plan it all out and think about and go to all the different things. But if at the end of the day, if you're not working hard and getting better every day and becoming the best player you can be, your options are going to be limited to how good of a player you are at some point. But losing sight of your development and your training and and all the work you do at home every day can be a mistake if you're just focused on kind of going exposure only instead of training. And I think we see that sometimes as well.
Also, it's not just up to the player. It's important that the coach advocates behind on behalf of the player as well, and that's what I realized. Moving from camp to camp, meeting different people, creating a network, and talking to coaches or managers or scouts. But sometimes we have to talk about, not sometimes, if we feel our player is ready to move on, we have to, it's our obligations as coaches to talk about that player and promote that player and show that player to the scouts or coaches so they can look at the player closely. So sometimes it's difficult for scouts um, to just go to the game and watch the game. They don't really know. They watched 16, 17 games during the weekend, and that's why it's important when we go to events and showcases that the players not only have opportunity maybe to be selected to different all-star games, they also have opportunity later on to go to prospects camps. But those camps, um, I would think, have to be recommended to the parents to attend to help parents to kind of figure out that jungle of camps and emails they have to deal with, and tell them what's important, what's not important. We as coaches can be wrong as well. However, we have already way more experience than the parents, and if they trust us, we try to create a relationship with the parents to tell them the truth, at least what that's how we feel, and put them into directions where they can have the best exposure. You can go, let's say, to a college camp where you might have a lot of junior team scouts or coaches, which is a good direction, because you go to college camp, especially a particular camp, and you want to feel how it's going to be in the future. And then you might go to that college camp maybe 3 to 4 years if you like it, and if it's well attended and well scouted camp, that's where you want to be at the same time, you want to be exposed at the junior camp, but be exposed at the camp when you have a good chance to be seen not only by one team but maybe by 10 teams. And there are variety of other camps where the camps are being set up just to be, you might get really a good look, or you may not get evaluation at the camp, and you basically go there, you play 4 games, and you go home, and you don't even know what has happened, and you don't know if anybody looked at you. You might have any fear. So those type of camps are usually not good camps for the player.
Yeah, great, Thomas. And I think we can maybe wrap up with that. And I think we talked about having some future lives. We're going to continue to do these lives. Tomas has a lot of relationships and things with coaches and other people involved in junior and collegiate hockey. So we might bring on some specific people as well to talk further about some of this stuff. But I think this is a great overview for people, for our players and families, and for anyone that's thinking about their path beyond youth hockey and what happens next, whether they're planning on going to college hockey or they want to they want to be a professional player, they want to keep playing, and understanding some of the way the junior landscape works. I think you guys can see that it's complex. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of different types of leagues. There's a lot of different types of paths you can go, and there's a lot of decisions about when and then how you get started. The key thing I think to understand is you don't have to just completely navigate that on your own. So whether you're a player with us in the junior reign or you're somewhere watching from somewhere else around the country, whatever it is, it's really important that you have people, like Tomas mentioned how important the coach is, have people that you can trust, mentors that you can go to ask for support and help, and make sure that they're people that have experience and have some kind of a role and know what these things are, because these are important decisions. If you're going to leave home or if you're going to potentially risk college eligibility or all these types of things, make sure that there's someone who, do your research and that knows what they're talking about and has the right relationships to connect you in the right direction. And don't just listen to your buddies or whatever in the locker room, or some coach that you've never heard of that's emailing you from a junior league that you've never heard of or whatever, because as you get older, you'll start to get a bunch of more emails and postings and camps and things and friends telling you that there's this to do this and do that and to do all these things. And it's easy to get caught up in the kind of anxiety of I got to do all these things. And what if I miss out or whatever? Find someone, and hopefully it can be a coach or a trusted advisor that really knows what they're doing. They've done this a long time. They either have the answers or they at least know someone that they can get the answer. If it's a complex question or a specific individual question, they can help you kind of navigate that path and make sure you have those people. Tomas, if someone has specific questions about their personal situation, what's the best way for them to reach out to you if they need some advice? Is just through your email?
Yeah, email, Tomas@com.
Tomas, I'll type that in here. You can reach out to Tomas directly there. Like I said, he's the director of high performance and AAA coach for the junior reign, but he's also a coach the scout in the USHL, which is the Tier 1 league we discussed, which majority, I think it's over 90% that go on to play NCAA Division I from that league. He's a scout in the NAHL, which is the Tier 2 league, which again, a high percentage of players go on to play either NCAA Division I or Division III hockey. And then he's also an owner in the WSHL, which is a Tier 3 league that has local options for players staying in California. So a lot of knowledge and experience, and he's here to help, and we're here to provide value for you guys. We'll plan some additional calls in the future on the junior hockey topic. So let us know questions or comments that you have specifically that we can get into in the future. And Tomas, before we wrap up, any kind of final comments?
Yes, I was thinking about it for a while, and this is something I try always to convey to the players I coach, that when you, and by whom you are being seen, you always have to be ready to perform and never kind of relax. When there is a game time, just focus, put everything in there, think about it like there are scouts looking, at the same time be able to relax, but at the same time be ready to perform 100%, and it becomes habit. And then after a while you don't even have to think about it, you are totally focused and be prepared. A lot of junior teams and college teams, not just how the player performs, but they are looking also at the player's character, and sometimes they are looking more the player's character and what it entitles. Um, One thing players might not realize when they play, and I've watched that all over different showcases, sometimes they are not happy and they express that their unhappiness is that, and it kind of negates all performance, and all of a sudden those people who are watching say, oh my goodness, this guy, he's got such a bad baggage
Mm.
that it doesn't really say really good thing about the player, and maybe it's wrong, but they create sort of an image. So the body language, the way we behave on the ice and off the ice, it's really important, and people are watching that. You know, I'm sure that everybody knows that when the player gets drafted by NHL team, there's a process, and before the player gets drafted, he's being interviewed by many teams, and he's being scrutinized by many teams, and a lot of people questions about this player, trying to figure out what the guy is all about, because they try to think how this player will serve us, and that's really important. So not everything is about how you perform on the ice. A lot of it is what you are made of as a person, and that's one thing really important. And I interviewed by it, and that particular scout or a coach spends some more time with me and ask me questions. That's a good thing,
Mm.
because one of the signals about another team who kind of don't ask any questions about you or are not interested what kind of player you are and just say, oh, come on my team, that's not a good thing. If
Yeah.
you as a player try to make a decision about team, make sure you are asking questions, make sure you are researching that team and ask other people about that particular team, and make your own research every time you go to any lecture about a team or a league. Every coach or scout or manager will tell you, make your own research, do your homework, don't make premature decisions, don't make decisions based on first impression, right? Always research, always figure it out, and it should be a process for you as a player, as it is a process for um, a team leader who is trying to pick up the players for himself. Okay, so you have to put some work into it, and so which is based on you being grounded and really making good decisions about yourself as a player, what kind of level you are at, be really critical towards yourselves, even though you are confident, but know, kind of figure out, where am I at the U16 level, what kind of a player am I double A player, am I triple A player, where am I at the U18 level? What kind of a player am I? Am I ready to step into Division One league? Even you guys might have an access to different broadcasting uh, tools such as Hockey TV, right? When we are at the NAPHL, you can watch your own game, and you can also watch other games. The, so you can make an impression what kind of a league I am getting into, right? So make your own research, and players can do that themselves. I met a lot of players. Some they don't care at all. Other players are really meticulous, and they put their teams on the wall in front of them. They are kind of planning on everything, and they are making a decision, a really good deep decision. And for some players it's easier, for some other players it's not. And also the development is very different. Some players are really good at 16, as I mentioned before. However, at 17 and 18, because they get satisfied, they are not as good because they stop training. Maybe other teams were interested in them when they are 16 and they kind of relaxed. And that's not the right way to do it. The other way around, at the U16, nobody even asks you to move on, but you work yourself at your 17, 18 years old, and you believe, and you make every practice to count, you make every day to count, on the ice, off the ice, and you believe in yourselves, and it's the right approach. And if, even though things will not work out in hockey, it's going to work out in life, because you are that kind of a person who is determined, who has a plan, has a goal, who wants something, who is passionate about it, and sooner or later you will get where you want to be.
Awesome. That's great advice, Tomas. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time today. Let us know what other questions you have for Tomas, and we'll get to them in the future calls or send it to him directly. And Tomas, I'm sure we'll have you on again next week. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure to be on.
Thanks. All right. Bye.